Carol's silent battle. Carol sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the fading walls of her small room. The echoes of her past haunted her, each memory a reminder of the sacrifices she had made for a family that never truly appreciated her. Her thoughts wandered back to the beginning, the day she stepped in to help her family and sacrificed her life. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Betty. Betty was 16 years old when she got pregnant for Joe, who was a civil servant. Her parents sent her away from the house to go and stay with the father of the baby. "I can't believe you're making me leave," Betty sobbed, clutching her mother's hands. "I have nowhere to go, Mama." Her mother's eyes were cold as steel. "You made your bed, Betty. Now lie in it. Joe is the father of your child. You have no choice but to go to him." Betty wiped her tears as she packed her few belongings. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of her suffering. Joe had wanted her to abort the baby and gave her some herbal concoction that a friend had recommended, but it did not work, and afterwards, he became very mean to her. Joe always complained about his poor pay and took out the frustration on her. He would starve her of food and even beat her up. On some days, he would lock her up in the house before going to work. A neighbor, Auntie Carol, usually took pity on her and gave her food. "Why do you eat so much? Do you think money grows on trees?" Joe snarled one evening, throwing the major dinner she had prepared onto the floor. Betty picked up the scattered food, her hands trembling. Auntie Carol, their kind neighbor, was the only one who showed her any compassion. "Here, dear, take this," Auntie Carol whispered one night, handing her a plate of food through the window. "You need to stay strong for your baby." She had a baby girl and named her Carol, after the neighbor that was kind to her during her travels. Betty's eyes welled up with gratitude. "Thank you, Auntie Carol. I named my daughter after you because of your kindness." After she had the baby, Auntie Carol advised her to go back to her parents. But when she tried to return to her parents after giving birth, her father's words shattered her hope. He insisted that she should go back to the father of her child, as he did not have the money to train another man's child. "We have no room for you, Betty. Go back to Joe." Her heart heavy, she returned back to the man who despised her. After 2 years, she had another baby girl for him, but the treatment grew harsher. The abuse worsened, but with Auntie Carol's help, Betty eventually escaped to the village to be with her 2 daughters. Auntie Carol had given her money to move to the village to live with her grandmom, as she advised that even though Betty claimed her grandmom was poor, the treatment she and the children would get there would be better than what they got from Joe. After living in the village for about 2 years with her children, Betty decided to run away to the city, leaving her children behind. The suffering from the village was too much, and she felt she could make a better fortune for herself and come back for the children later. 5 years later, Betty had built a new life with Chris, a man who accepted her and her daughters. By the time she brought her 2 children, Carol was 9 years old, while Lily was 7 years old. Chris supported them financially for some time, and he also had 2 children with Betty. Betty was a petty trader, and Carol automatically assumed the role of a second mom to her younger siblings, as her mom was out of the house most of the time. Betty was someone that liked having friends. So even when she was not in her store selling, she was out visiting friends or attending social occasions. But life had a way of repeating himself. Mom, you are never home. I have to take care of the kids while you're out with your friends. Carol, now a teenager, confronted her mother one evening. Betty sighed, brushing off her daughter's concerns. I'm doing my best, Carol. We all have our roles to play. Carol nodded, understanding but resentful. However, that conversation struck a chord in her heart, and she vowed to make life better for her family. She did not know that the cost of this would be too much to bear. After some years, Chris lost his job and could no longer cater for the family. The little money that came his way, he used it to consume alcohol and smoke, as he saw it as a way of escape. The proceeds from Carol's petty trading could not sustain the family, and as a result of this, Carol had to drop out of school at the age of 16 when she was in SS2. She engaged in menial jobs to help sustain the family and also raise money for her heartache. She wrote the exam after 2 years of saving money. Unfortunately, she did not pass the required number of papers and had to start saving for another exam. By this time, the pressure for financial help from her mom was getting too much. Carol was so soft-hearted and kind that she could not bear to see her mom and siblings suffer. So she started a form of prostitution called hookup. The proceeds from this enabled her to feed her mom and younger siblings and also sponsor her siblings' education. She wrote heartache again and passed and secured admission to a college of education. While in her final year in school, her mom stole her school fees and she could not raise the money to pay her fees, so she dropped out. She was so committed to taking care of her family that 80% of her earnings was given to her family. Why do you keep giving everything to them? A friend once asked Carol. You need to think about yourself for once. Carol shook her head. They are my family. I can't let them suffer. But the sacrifices came at a price. After 4 years of being a hookup girl, she contracted HIV and started treatment immediately, and she stopped the trade immediately, as she did not want to get anyone affected. She then started working as a sales girl in a company and saved her money for some years. With her savings, she enrolled for an online degree program. After her first year, she had to drop out again as her earning was too small to take care of her mom and siblings and also pay her school fees. After some years, she saved up some money and also secured a small loan to open a shop and was a wholesale distributor for a food manufacturing company. She could also buy a car for herself as business was good. Her younger sister Lily had gotten married and had 4 kids. She and her husband parted ways and she had custody of the children but had accommodation issues. Carol accommodated them and even introduced her sister to the business. After some months, she noticed a large sum of money was missing. She had entrusted her sister with paying for supplies, and she did not know that Lily did not pay for 2 months. However, the company still gave her supplies for that period as she had a good credit line with them. She discovered the thefts when they did not bring the supplies on the 3rd month. Then her sister confessed that she gave the money to her boyfriend and that he would pay back. Carol was so upset that she kicked her sister Lily out of the house. How could you do this to me, Lily? Carol cried, her voice breaking as she faced her sister after discovering the theft. Lily hung her head in shame I'm sorry, Carol. I thought you would pay me back. Get out, Carol whispered, too exhausted to argue. But the pleas of her mother and pastor wore her down, and she let Lily back into her life. And she did after 6 months. This only led to more betrayal from her sister, as at this time her business was low due to not getting enough supplies. She sought out other businesses and had to travel for a week to Port Harcourt for a business dealing. By the time she returned after 1 week, Lily had sold every item in the shop, including the furniture and the 12.5 kVA generator, and had given the money to another boyfriend. When Carol learnt of this, she fainted and was hospitalized for 1 week. When she got back home and realized there was no way of recovering her money, as her mom was not interested in intervening, she decided to sell her remaining possessions and her car and relocate to Port Harcourt, which is far from her family in Lagos. She then contacted a travel agent to help process her travel visa to relocate, but she was duped by the agent. Her last resort was to sell her uncompleted building that her mom had been helping her supervise its building earlier in the year when her business was moving on well. Unfortunately, her mom told her she sold it. Her mom had the property documents with her as she was the one helping with the supervision. Now, Carol sat alone, her body frail, her spirit broken. Her family no longer called, and her health was deteriorating. Getting her medication to take care of herself was a big struggle. How I wished I loved myself more than my family, she whispered to the empty room. Her life had been one of endless sacrifice, but at what cost? She had given everything, and in the end, she was left with nothing. Lesson learned. In the silence of her thoughts, Carol realized that self-love is not selfish, it is necessary. She had poured herself out until she was empty, and now she had to find the strength to rebuild for herself. Thank you very much for listening. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. If you enjoyed this story, I'm sure you will enjoy the next one. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video.